Hi everyone. Something's coming that could wipe out your summer garden. It looks great now, but your summer garden is actually on its way out. Don't make the mistake that most gardeners make in July and stop planting. All the crops I'm going to share with you today love the heat, grow fast, and you'll be harvesting them by late summer. So stay ahead, keep planting. This could be your last chance for these crops. Don't miss your window. First crop I always plant in July are cucumbers. Now you might be thinking, Kim, you already have tons of cucumbers in your garden. And I do, but this plant here is already being hit with that little something that's coming I told you about in the first part of the video. We've got some disease, we've got some pests, we've had some heat, and this cucumber plant is not looking that great. So if I let it continue, it would die off and I wouldn't have any fresh cucumbers to harvest at the end of the summer. So we're gonna pop in some seeds. I always like to plant really strong varieties at this point in the summer that grow fast. The Diva cucumber is amazing, and also the Armenian cucumber. They're very quick producing. The Diva is a parthenocopic variety, which means that it only has female flowers and doesn't need pollination in order to germinate. So it's a real surefire producer at the end of the summer. So I'm just popping in extra seeds here at the base of my plant, keeping it super easy. But I do have a tip coming later in the video that will tell you how to start seeds simply if your garden beds are full. Now, as this plant dies out, I'll have a fresh new crop coming up to take its place. And what I've learned over the years, it's a whole lot easier to start with a new plant than to try and save a struggling plant. The next crop to plant in July are beans. Now, when you're planting these July crops, it's really important that you plant fast growers, heat lovers, and power producers, and beans definitely fits the bill. But maybe you're getting sick of all those bush beans in your garden, so mix it up a little bit and plant edamame beans. They're smaller, thinner, grow faster. You can boil and salt them, and they're great for snacking. Something just to add a little fun twist to your garden harvest later in the summer, and I actually just added these to my late summer garden seed collection. So go over and check it out. So here we have a little edamame bean growing. I'm just gonna tuck in some beans here, right in this little empty spot in my garden bed. And don't worry, I've got that tip coming up on what to plant if your garden beds are full. But look for those empty spots. Tuck in some beans, and they'll be popping up probably in about a week or so, and you'll be harvesting them by summer's end. Unfortunately, we're stopping this video to share with you some very sad news. This is the second day. We shot the first part yesterday. And yesterday, as soon as Jerry picked up his camera, Mac followed us out like he always loves to do. He loves to shoot with us in the garden. He put his bandana on and he was right next to me, ready to be on camera.
After that first few shots there, Mac's health took a turn for the worse because of his cancer. And we needed to address that immediately. And unfortunately, Mac is no longer with us now. We spent the day dealing with that. So we're coming back today, shooting this second part and dedicating this video in memory of Mac.
It's hard to keep shooting here because he's always with us in the garden, but we really wanted to do it in honor of him. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the video. We have our edamame beans planted to add some variety to our late summer harvest. But I recommend also planting some runner beans, especially if you're looking for a quick grower that's a high producer, and it's very, very beautiful and draws in the pollinators. So these runner beans are growing like crazy. The Scarlet runners are my favorite. You can't beat these red flowers, and they're still heavily producing. So what I like to do at this point in the season is plant a little bit of variety because we kind of get sick of the same thing by the end of the summer. So I love growing the yard-long beans. It's also a very quick producer, and these ones are pretty special to me because these beans were actually given to me by Gary at the Rustic Garden. I plant them every year, then save the seeds and plant them again in my garden. And they're always great producers for me. And they're just a fun bean to grow. So they are really tall beans. So definitely plant them at the top of a tall trellis. Just pop them in at the base of an existing trellis like the one I have here. So this is a bean pod I saved from last year. Beans are nice and dry. And these are so much fun. They're about 3 feet long. They're skinny, super tender, and they grow so quickly direct seeded here in July. So I'm just gonna pop them in here at the base of this trellis. And that way, as my watermelon here on this trellis is finishing up, I'll have something else to take its place so it won't be empty. I recommend that you just keep it easy, use what you already have in your garden. That way you can get your crops planted quickly this month. Next up for July are tomatoes. Determinate tomatoes. Now, determinate tomatoes grow to a set size, usually about 3 to 4 feet, and then they produce all their tomatoes at once. So they're definitely early producers in the garden. And here we have one of my all-time favorites, Tiny Tim. I mean, look at this cute little tomato. It's only about 2 feet tall. So it's perfect for containers as well. And I've got a whole bunch of tomatoes on the back side here of this plant. But determinate tomatoes are great to plant from seed in July because they're quick growers. Now, I don't often like to direct seed determinate tomatoes right in my garden beds, but let me tell you what I do to get them started here in July. And this is the little trick I was talking about earlier, is I just start seeds right in these 6-packs, and I don't bother getting grow lights set up again or putting them under grow lights. It's warm enough outside, so I just put them on my deck in an area that gets morning sun, afternoon shade. They grow really well. They pop up in about a week or so, and they're ready to plant out in the garden in about 3 to 4 weeks. So here I've got some of my favorite, my Tiny Tims planted. I've got some Oregon spring tomatoes planted, which are a great tomato that also has really good cold tolerance. So growing into the fall, you want a tomato that will still keep producing even in the cold. Now, another one of my favorite determinate tomatoes is right over here, and it's Golden Nugget. I know a lot of you are growing this. It's a little bit taller of a determinate. This one gets to about 3 to 4 feet tall, but this one is just starting to produce for the summer. But by starting extra seeds now, I found that I can often get harvest well into the fall, especially here in Southern California. Now, the cool thing is the Oregon Spring and the Tiny Tim are in my late summer garden seed collection. I've completely redone the whole entire collection, brand new just for late summer garden. And we're putting it on a sale in honor of Mac, and the code's going to be MAC50 for 50% off over at CalicanGardeningHome.com. Along with determinate tomatoes, did you know that you can actually grow indeterminate tomatoes for free, even this late in the summer? What I like to do for this is to actually snip a sucker from a plant that is doing well, that I absolutely love the variety. This one is Golden Jubilee, one of my favorites. So I don't have to start from seed at this point. The suckers will actually grow roots for a free plant. So the sucker is what comes out here in between the armpit of the plant, and it will actually be a productive little stem. So I'm just going to very carefully snip it out, and then I'm going to stick it in this little glass of water, put it out of direct sunlight on my windowsill. I actually already have a sun gold tomato growing on my windowsill that's about 2 feet tall. It will actually start to grow roots. Then you can plant it outside for quicker, earlier harvests late in the summer or into the fall. So just a little tip for free plants. Next up to plant here in July are herbs. But after that, we're going to talk about weeds that we can eat. Now, one of the herbs I love to plant in July is basil because it's one of my favorites. But also, usually about this time of the year, typically my basil is starting to flower. And I definitely want a fresh new crop of basil late in the summer because it's so delicious. Now, what I like to do is look for little holes in the garden where I can tuck in seeds, like right in here. Nice little empty spot where I can plant one of my favorite types of basil, the Prospera compact basil. And I do like planting this in July because it does grow very quick. This is actually a pelleted seed. It's a little bit more of a compact plant, so it will fit here in this nice little garden spot here. And it also grows fast, and I'll be harvesting it probably in about 6 weeks or so. Another one of my favorite varieties is this purple basil. This is in my herb garden seed collection. And also the culinary basil, which is a mix of different types of basil, all in one little seed packet. Just tamping these down, give them some water, and it's as simple as that. Next category of crops we're going to plant here in July are salad greens. Now you might be thinking, wait a second, how can you grow salad in the summer? It's usually a cool weather vegetable. You've got to grow those heat tolerant greens. And first up is that edible weed I was telling you about. It's called Purslane. Now what I like to do too is pop up a container because a lot of my garden beds are full, and Purslane is so easy to plant, it's so easy to grow, and you might have even seen it growing around your yard or around your neighborhood. It can often be grown also as a ground cover. It's kind of a succulent looking green, but the leaves are super tender and absolutely delicious. So if you're looking for a fast grower that is hardy and tough and drought tolerant, Purslane is the one for you. Now the seeds are super tiny, so you notice I just sprinkled them in here in my container, just in half my container. I'll save the other half for something else. It'll be popping up soon. Now, this is one that can also be grown as an edible ground cover. So if you've got a bare spot in your garden, or like along your pathways or the edges of your garden, pop in some Purslane seeds. It's edible and it will actually spread out and grow and fill those empty bare spots. So it's a real July winner. Besides using purslane as a ground cover, you can also use it as a living mulch. It's crunchy, lemony, full of omega-3s, so you really can't go wrong with it. If you love the weed crop, you're gonna love my bonus crops at the end of the video. And the next crop we're gonna plant in July, wait a second, I gotta stop right here, you guys. Here's a favorite red bandana that Mac wore. We actually took it off him yesterday when we finished filming, and it's still right here. So the next crop, in honor of Mac, even though he didn't like vegetables, is a dazzling blue kale. So this is one of my favorite varieties of kale because it's so unique, it's so beautiful. It's different than the typical red Russian kale or some of the other kales I have growing. You can see why it's called dazzling blue. Absolutely beautiful leaves, gorgeous kind of purple stems. But if you notice here, this kale's been planted for a while. It's getting a lot of holes in it from bugs. So again, here in July, we are planting fresh new rounds so we don't have to deal with a struggling plant. So come back over here to this container. I always love growing in containers, especially when my garden beds are full. And kale is so quick to grow. And I actually just put dazzling blue kale in my heat tolerant green seed collection. Again, all new here for you guys in July. But the seeds pop up probably within a week or so. It's so warm out here. We'll have our purslane in half of this 5-gallon smart pot and the dazzling blue kale in the second half for a nice little heat tolerant summer salad station that we'll be harvesting late in the summer, probably in about August. So kale, we can actually sprinkle some extra soil over the top of the seeds here. It's just so easy to direct seed it right in our containers. Another heat-loving green to add variety to our late summer salads is amaranth. Now, I grew amaranth last year and it actually grew to about 15 feet tall back here. But this year I'm going to grow it to baby amaranth. It's a nice, beautiful, nutty green, and I'm planting here red amaranth, which I've added again to my heat-tolerant green seed collection. It grows really well in containers, and you can harvest it in about 40 to 50 days. So harvest it as baby greens. It has kind of a slightly nutty flavor. If you grow it until it flowers and goes to seed, you can actually harvest the seeds for grain. So it's really a fun one, but the red one is absolutely beautiful. And what I'm gonna do is sprinkle it here in my open spot behind my watermelon. We'll get just the right amount of sun. The seeds are super tiny, so just sprinkle them down, kind of press them in the soil, and will add really nice variety to your late summer salads. To me, it's all about variety late in the season because sometimes you have so many other things growing in the garden. It's nice to have something new. So let me know if you like variety in your garden as well towards the end of the summer. Next up here in July is one of my absolutely favorite power producers of the summer, and that is squash. Now, here in July, what I like to do is plant some scallop squash because it is a smaller variety. I've got scallop squash growing back in here. It's also a super beautiful variety and very nutty and flavorful. And again, to add some variety here to my garden, because sometimes at the end of the summer, you get tired of the same old, same old. I'm planting some partial eclipse scallop squash. This is a gorgeous squash, also new to my late summer garden seed collection. It's your scallop squash, beautiful shape, but it has gorgeous green speckles and green stripes, so it really adds some fun to your garden here. Now I've got this little empty spot, so I'm going to pop in a few seeds. The soil is nice and warm, the air temperature is nice and warm. These squash are going to pop up very quickly, and often late in the summer, the squash that's already growing starts to get powdery mildew, starts to die out. But this garden bed will not be empty because I just popped in a couple of brand new squash seeds and I'll have them to harvest later in the summer. Now, this is another one of those vegetables that also does really well if you want to plant it in your 6-packs. Put it somewhere in sunshine in the morning, afternoon shade so it doesn't get too dried out. It'll pop up quickly. You'll have a transplant to pop in your garden bed in about 4 weeks or so. So perfect timing for the end of the summer harvest. Now sit tight because those bonus crops are coming up soon. But before we talk about those, let's talk about flowers for the pollinators, zinnias. I love planting zinnias late in the summer because they grow so fast and you can direct seed them right in those empty spots. Now the zinnias in here are just starting to bloom. I actually got these in a little bit late, but I intentionally left some empty spots, which is a really good way to do it when you're gardening, because then you can succession plant even flowers in the empty spots that you leave in your garden. Because at the end of the summertime, these zinnias will be getting powdery mildew, starting to die off. And guess what? I'm going to have some brand new seeds with just a little bit of planting here, brand new zinnias to take their place, so the pollinators will keep on coming in to pollinate my squash even late in the summer. Next up for pollinators are sunflowers. Now, it might be a little bit late in the season to grow the massively tall sunflowers like I have right here, especially if you live in a northern zone. But the mini sunflowers, the dwarf sunflowers, are perfect to grow here in July. I love planting these super compact, beautiful flowers. And you couldn't go wrong. Look at this teddy bear sunflower. It has a nice fuzzy head. These are actually new to my late summer garden seed collection as well. It's only about 3 feet tall, so it's perfect for the back of a garden bed. You can easily direct seed them, and it brings in the bees and butterflies like crazy. Next up for the pollinators, and this one's a double whammy, is calendula. Now here I've got some calendula planted, and the flowers are absolutely beautiful. But one reason why I love them, they attract the pollinators, they're beautiful, but the double whammy part of it is they are actually what's called a trap crop. See all those aphids on there? What the calendula is doing is actually attracting the aphids with their strong scent away from my other vegetables. So it's a great flower to have in here with my eggplant and peppers. So the aphids aren't eating my vegetables, but are attracted to the calendula. Now, calendula is also an edible flower, makes delicious teas, has medicinal properties. I always love boiling it in hot water whenever I have a cold, and it really helps clear things up. It's actually a cool weather flower. So what I would recommend is actually starting it from seed and then planting it out in your garden as the weather starts to cool off. And then you'll have it for a beautiful fall flower. But this one is actually doing pretty well here in the heat of the summer too. Now for those bonus crops that you can start now in July. We're talking fall gardening. I know you think it's too early to start fall gardening, but if you start some of the longer seed to harvest fall garden crops now, you'll have transplants to put out in your garden. So I recommend starting things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts about mid-July, so they can grow inside because it's too hot to plant them outside. So start them in your 6-packs. And then in about 6 weeks, you'll have transplants to put out in the garden come September, as long as the weather's cooling off in your area. It gives you a little bit of a head start, so you can slide right from your summer garden when those crops die out, right into the cool weather gardening with your fall vegetables. So we have an all new fall garden seed collection to help you get started. Grab that and get your seeds started indoors now in July. And we'll be sharing more about that in future videos. 3, 2, 1, action. I always love closing out our garden videos with Mac right here by my side. Often he would come up and just tuck his head right under my elbow. As we finished out the video, he loved being out here to film. And we really wanted to finish this video in honor of him. So, hope you enjoyed the video. And what I really hope is that you plant one or more of these July vegetables for yourself so you can have something to eat at the end of the summer, but also plant some and think of Mac for us, would you? I'm really glad that he was our garden friend and your garden friend for all these years. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.